at ya, back at ya. Tell you what's master, coming at ya, coming at ya. Rhyme style disaster, coming at ya, back at ya. Tell you what's master.
Hello and welcome to Cut the Bull. I am Charles Love, alongside my co-hosts Wilfred Reilly, Brooks Crenshaw, and I am contractually obligated to say the lovely Christy Kelly. As you can see, we are sans guests this evening because on occasion, Will and I would have these great opportunities because the world is so crazy where we sit around and talk about, try to catch up on all the madness that is happening. And we thought it was obviously a good time to do that. And now it's a little bit better because it's not just Will and I. So the four of us get to chop up the current events. And there's a lot to cover, but it's an obvious start. And we wanted to talk about the untimely and shocking death of Charlie Kirk being assassinated, like as if he was well, we can get to what the person, we don't know who it is, but what they may be thinking. But I think we should just start with thoughts. And I want to go to Christy first, because you're there in Arizona where his organization is housed, and where, you probably see some of them on a daily basis and things of that nature. So what are your thoughts? What's going through your mind as you try to process this?
I mean, it's really been a tough time. Just utter sadness. I mean, I am in the GOP. I have done, some volunteer work with Turning Point. My daughter's vice chair of the Teenage Republicans. So, I mean, it's just been, nothing but tears for 2 days, both for, the organization and the person, and also just for the sadness of losing somebody who, has helped the youth. I mean, last night we went to a vigil at Grand Canyon University. It was about 200 kids at 10 o'clock at night on the lawn. When I finish here, we'll go down to the headquarters, to also drop off some flowers, pay our respects, be with people. It's a lot of sadness in Arizona right now.
Yeah. Will, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, it was a shocking thing that happened, really. I actually didn't know. Brooks and a couple other buddies texted me about it and said Charlie Kirk, and like all of them, there was a bunch of guys, and all of them made, like, there was slight verbal issues. So I thought they were saying Charlie Kirk was shooting at Utah, like he was doing a documentary. And then I followed up and was like, okay, so what? And they were like, no, you idiot, he's dead. And Jane similarly contacted me around about 6 and said that, like, she'd been watching Fox or something, and they had mentioned that apparently someone shot the guy. I mean, obviously this is a hugely problematic, like, we all knew Charlie, at least casually, like, hugely problematic, terrible situation. There's not that much to say about it. The political science impact would be, are we really going to take it to this level like they did in the 1960s, where public figures would quite regularly give a controversial speech and then get shot in the head? I don't know a gentler way to put that. I mean, RFK, MLK, it was very dangerous to talk in public. And right now, I mean, we've seen 2 assassination attempts on Trump. I do not believe those are from the right, frankly. We've seen a Kirk successful assassination attempt. And this is all today, the midshipman went crazy and tried to shoot up the Naval Academy, some of the officer corps there. He's walking around with a semi-automatic pistol in his hand. So, I mean, I think we're going back to that, like, I don't like your political speech, so I'm gonna fire off a couple of rounds at you, and that's never good.
I think that's really important. We should spend a somewhat considerable amount of time on that. But first, I want to hear from Brooks. What do you think?
Yeah, it's tragic. I mean, I came in from class and my wife Christy told me, and we monitored Twitter for a while, and when we heard the news, it's really devastating because I mean, like, he took on some controversy, but like he was fearless, and he really sparked a movement in the college age of America. And to lose somebody that way at 31, from my military background, I've watched some really amazing people lose their lives, and to see it at this scale again is just really disheartening. I will say that, I'm an admirer of his courage, and I believe that he I would say, lived a Christian life unto the end. Like that was a very first century Christian life.
Wow, wow, that's heavy. Yeah, I think, I mentioned I wanted to get into what Will was talking about briefly, but before we get there, we have to talk about him and his impact and what he was doing. And I don't think people will, maybe, hopefully, one thing we draw from that is people will kind of realize and understand just how broad his impact was. Because on the one end, you have that contact and the influence with the president and helping him get over the finish line. But then the other thing, like you mentioned, the kids. But, I wanted to, Will was talking about how he heard, I wasn't watching the news at all, and someone sent it to me. And surprisingly, I did not know him. It's like every single person I know knew him. I mean, never met him, never went to an event. We always, Will and I joke on the show about, oh, I'm not that. Is this a political show? And so obviously I travel in conservative circles and I speak at events and all that kind of stuff, but I never really go to political rallies. So that's the reason why I never really see him. I think I've been to CPAC once and that's it. So, but the organization that I'm with is also in Arizona, but then he was founded in Illinois, in Chicago. So I know a lot of his original funders and things of that nature. But when I talk about impact, one thing I want to say that's interesting. So I found out, and the first person I thought to call, I think people will find is interesting. It'll say a lot about him. So it was my brother, and that is because my brother called me up one day out of the blue. Now, keep in mind, my brother's older than me, so he's not the Charlie Kirk demographic that you are here. He's older than me. He's not college educated. He's a blue collar guy who works in the mill. Apolitical. He has never talked to me about politics in his life, right? Christian, though, doesn't follow all the stuff, doesn't watch the news. So one day he called me out of the blue and said, have you ever heard of a guy named Charlie Kirk? And I started laughing. I'm like, how did you hear about Charlie Kirk? He said, so somehow in my feed, I kept seeing stuff about this guy that I never heard of. But what it was saying was he's a racist, he's a homophobe, he's this bad person. So for whatever reason, I just decided to see what he was like. Like, if this guy's this bad, I need to check it out. So he found his show and watched his show. And when he called me, he had been 3 weeks in, said, I've been listening to him every day for 3 weeks. And not only have I never heard him say anything racist, I pretty much agree with 90% of what the guy is saying. I don't think I don't understand what all this is about. So when I called him, he was absolutely shocked. He was like, the guy who just talks about his Christian faith and talks about and asks people questions, he got shot for talking to people. And so that was interesting to me, one, because here's this late 50s, Black guy in middle America who's not anywhere near, he's not a Republican and he's not a college teen, but somehow, Charlie Kirk reached him and he was shocked and he was devastated by it. So I think that we'll never really know how big the impact was, but it was massive. Anybody else have any other thoughts? Christy, you want to talk about his impact and what he did at 18, deciding he can make a difference?
Could I say one thing kind of quickly there,
yes,
actually? Okay, and sorry to all jump in on Christy there, but like, I think what you said about your brother is actually really important. Because one of the things that I realized when I started reading like a range of writers at maybe 17, 18 as a young guy, I was traveling around, I was actually in other countries sometimes, was that most positions are pretty reasonable. Like I read everyone from Dinesh D'Souza and Pat Buchanan. Like I thought Pat was a little prejudiced, but he was also right on border control. They just seem like guys. On over to Cornell West. And you can sort of see in a rational conversation in a normal college, the way the university should be, Buchanan and West would both be teachers. Like there'd be nothing especially controversial about saying, I'd prefer my ethnic group being the majority in my country, much less the kind of stuff that Charlie Kirk says, like, I'm a Bible-believing Christian. So the weird thing, and I guess the point I'm making is like when Black and Hispanic normal working men and women encounter this range of perspectives, they tend to react like I did. Like, okay, I would disagree with this guy at a bar. Like he might go to the more Irish bar across the street, but he's just a person. He's a high IQ individual. And the issue in the country in one sentence is that a group of people that are on kind of the fringe fifth percentile think that only their ideas merit consideration. Like if you don't think that marriage is the sexual oppression of women, you're not a feminist. I think it was someone actually fairly enjoyable. Like Kara Dansky or somebody said this on this show. So if you don't believe this, you're nuts. You're crazy. If you believe in any of the major gods, you're over the line when the new atheist movement was in charge. So these people, intellectual conversation is dominated by people that believe crazy shit no one else does. That's it.
Right. And I think that is the last thing I want to say is that I think that this is going to have an impact on people because Will said that you might hear them and you're like, they're not saying anything I should be afraid of. I might disagree with them, blah, 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 blah. But when something like this happened, they're like, well, now I'm like, even where I disagreed with him, I didn't think it was so out of the box that people react the way they do. Not even just to shooting, just to calling them Hitler and saying they're Nazis and all that. It's like all the guy said was, I would rather date a white woman than a black woman because he's white. But whether you think you could call it racist, but many black people think the same thing. It's not that weird. So I think that it's going to have that kind of effect on it also. People will think that all of their thoughts are over the top. But Christy or Brooks, his
Yeah,
impact.
I mean,
Personally,
I think that we could go through 4 or 5 statements that people cherry pick and they'll take like 10 seconds of what he said and they won't talk about it in context or the nuance. But I really think that's a waste of time
Right.
for us because we know, okay, watch the full clip, get some context. But for people who want to think he's racist and sum it up, I mean, that's an easy, lowbrow, low IQ way of just shutting down conversation. I think his impact, I don't think we've really seen his impact, but I think that he was killed not for what he was doing, but for where he was going. Because if you
Mm.
think about it, he is the one that said Vance is the guy before Trump even knew. So he handpicked Vance. Vance came out and said that he not only picked the staff, but he picked the majority of the current staff. So here this guy is. He's a young guy. Carrie Lake came out and said he absolutely would have ran for president. And he is influencing the current generation, and he's doing it through Christian values. And the thing that we don't understand, a lot of people don't understand, is Charlie Kirk said, somebody said, "How do you want to be remembered?" And he said, "I want to be remembered for my faith."
Right.
And that is what people stood up, college student after college student after college student said. He encouraged me to get married young. He encouraged me to be the head of my household, young men said. He encouraged me to love God and actually read my Bible and read scriptures. So again, I don't think he was killed for what we see. I think somebody identified where he was going, and he would have been way more powerful than even what Trump is now.
Brooks, did that make him a martyr? This the way things
Yeah,
unfold,
I think
regardless of who the shooter is?
I mean, martyr is often attributed. I mean, the Kierkegaard quote that when the tyrant dies, his reign is over. When the martyr dies, his reign begins. I think we're going to get a lesson in why dying for the truth is powerful. I think the results of his death are going to demonstrate again that you can kill the truth, but it will rise again.
Right. Obviously, we got to talk about the media's reaction, social media, and some things like that. But I think before that, like I said earlier, I want to get to what Will said because he made an interesting point, and it ties to where this is going, and that's important. Everybody's questioning what next. Is it going to be reaction, all this stuff? But one of the things anyone who watches this show knows that Will and I are two of the biggest of the 8 or 9 people out there in the world who constantly push back, especially even from the right, on this belief that everything is so dangerous. Christy and I remember, Will, we were messing with Christy because she was talking about being afraid to do something. I don't remember exactly what the topic was, but we talk about how crime, while in some areas are bad, some get some spots, ebbs and flows. It definitely got worse during COVID and BLM, but on the whole, is not worse than it was before. And I think in some ways, political violence is the same and different. So I want to get everyone's take on that. Will reference the 60s and the madness that happened in the 60s, but there's a lot of us, who are old enough to remember the 70s and things of that nature. And, I recently, a couple of years ago, was reading the Days of Rage by Brian Burrow. And it's about, the FLN and all of these other, terrorist groups from the 70s were mostly communists, right? And who were basically creating random acts of terrorism, not like assassinating people. and it was common. And so I was talking to someone about it where we're definitely seeing a lot in the last couple of years. So there is an uptick, and a lot of our nature of the culture makes it easier. Like we couldn't see stuff on video and things of that nature. But
Mhm.
I was reminding them that from 74 to like 83, they set off 130 bombs, right? I um I know I met a guy whose father was killed at lunch in 75. He was among the 6 people killed, 61 injured in a bombing in New York. They were bombing post office, bombing government buildings, right? So we've had other things, and it kind of actually went down from like the late 90s up until 2001. And so I'm just wondering, is it really, I think in the last 3 years, it's definitely increasing, but I want to know if you all think as a whole it's increasing. If not, will it? And is it, if you think it is there a reason behind it? Or if it's not, is it just perception because of the way we see things? Anyone can take that first.
Well,
I can, I,
as an Intel guy, I tend to look at things from a historic background and look at trends. I think in mirroring academia's trajectory from the long march through the institution to its kind of ebb, and then in the rise of political correctness in the 90s, and then that kind of waned down, and then we had 2012, and then it just took. And so you see this trajectory of growth and recession, and growth to larger impact, and then recession, and this last impact was very large. And then following that, you had a lot of violence. Charles, you mentioned in the 70s, a lot of bombings. Yeah, I think this is cyclical, and I think we're doing it again, and it's probably going to potentially get worse depending on how we react to it, and what authorities do in that regard, both state, municipal, local, and federal.
Well,
yeah, I mean, I think political violence is clearly on the increase. I mean, when Bush was running against Gore, there would never be, no one would assume that either of those controversial men would be blown off the stage. I mean, that was something we saw. Brooks is right from an intel perspective.
Bush
Like
gets
50.
shot at though.
Well, Bush got a shoe thrown at him. I don't
All
remember
right, he
Bush.
got that. I think he got shot at too.
Yeah, I don't remember. Yeah, Bush
He
was
juked
linked
that.
to the
He juked
Matrix
that
motion.
shit too. He was
And
spry.
Bush was actually a pretty good athlete back in the day. I think he played baseball at Yale. But the whole thing with, I mean, I don't recall Bush or Gore getting shot at. I mean, Barack. So, like, I actually once made a joke. I've done like mediocre stand-up comedy before, which hopefully is wiped off the internet. But I mean, one of my jokes was like, nobody even cares enough to kill politicians anymore. Like, we got the first black president. He's running against a guy who's like a military captain. I mean, these are controversial figures. No one gives a shit. And that actually was the mood for a while. Like people, Barack Obama in Chicago came to greet a crowd of about 750,000 that came to Grant Park just to meet him, to see a political figure. And there was no thought that would be death would be involved in that. That was also at a period, by the way, when like the U.S. murder rate dropped to, I think, 4 or 5, black murder rate to about 15 over 100,000. I mean, it was a time of not incredible prosperity or anything, but just people were enforcing the law. It was 10 years after Giuliani and Bratton. There was really no chance of the stuff we're seeing now. And a lot of the old bad things came back with the BLM stuff, right? I mean, about 2012. Barack Obama decided it would help him to get reelected, and I do blame him a lot for this, to get involved in these local cases like the Trayvon Martin case and say just absurd things like, my son would look and very likely behave like Trayvon. No, he wouldn't. He wouldn't be walking around in a hoodie at 2 a.m. What are you talking about? You live in Martha's Vineyard, but I mean, so he said that he went with this racial route. So we saw Trayvon Martin, Michael Brown. You started seeing riots in the streets. You eventually started seeing whites and conservatives fight back, pretty effectively written out. So, I mean, when you actually have people in the streets shooting at each other in your country, that's a bad sign. And we allowed that kind of collapse, that kind of failure. Interestingly, like real regular crime isn't up that much. Like people mugging grandmothers or something. What you're seeing is a lot of this like Proud Boys, Antifa, transgender stuff, political brawling. But I mean, still getting hit in the head.
And random crazies.
Yeah, I mean, I think that there are different types of people that do different things. Like when I trained as a lawyer before going to political science. If you ever talk to criminals, they hate political prisoner types. Like if you're in Cook County Jail, there's actually a lot less beating and rape bluntly than people think there is. But if you go in there with like your Che Guevara shirt on, talking shit about like organizing the masses when people are trying to sleep, you actually legitimately might get your ass kicked. So there's a difference between the sort of guy who is a political radical who's really motivated about trans rights and who frankly would probably get beaten with bars of soap at some kind of athletic camp or military boot camp, and the sort of guy who's going out with a gun robbing people. And after 2 years of craziness after BLM, we actually started cracking down on the regular robbers. Now we've got the passionate people who believe the stuff on both sides. And last thing, because I'm a long talker, like if you go to social media today, it's just like open race warring. Like people are, excuse the language, but saying like we need to kill all the niggers. And blacks are responding by saying, you know, you stupid snow monkey. It was a white man that shot Kirk. Like just the craziest racist stuff. And they're all doing it. I mean, so it's these sort of passionate bigots. I mean, it's the guys that'll go show up at the 8 a.m. college student rally. Those are the people that are wilding out right now.
And I wonder how many of those are there's so much bot work in social media. So like
stir in the pot. Yeah.
If your objective is to stir the pot, as Charles eloquently said, I mean, that's the way to do it.
That's kind of what I was going to say is now it's kind of hard to know what's a credible threat and what isn't. And I was listening
Which is a problem, but yes.
It's a problem. I was listening to Charlie Kirk's pastor, and he said that he got death threats every single day, Kirk did. So it's not like, you know, this was something new. If there was a credible threat before here, it's hard to know what's credible and what's not. I think the left, we know what they're going to do, right? Something happens, they go riot. We see what they're doing. We see them coming. The right, they're pretty quiet right now. Like it's hard to know if they're going to rise up and do something. And I think that's a little scary, especially for some of us on the right, right? Like what are y'all going to do? Are y'all going to do anything? Or, you know, it's kind of scary to know which direction they're going. The other scary thing for me is we're used to politicians, but he wasn't an elected official. He was a regular person. So his brand was prove me wrong, talking to people. He was civil. He didn't disrespect you. You know, as a mediator, he sat down and had a conversation with people, with anyone. So someone like that who's not an elected official, I think we might be, you know, in new territory. I see the right saying he's the MLK of our time.
Yeah.
You know, it's new territory.
Wow.
Yeah, I think to be the MLK, or I mean, you hear people say the whatever general for Colin Powell back in the day. I mean, the Jefferson. I mean, like those are people that are all pretty solid contenders to be on money. So I mean, we'd have to see how Kirk's legacy ages and so on. But he was definitely a very significant guy who was shot down. One of the things about this is that he was shot down in his young prime. I mean, Kirk I think was 31. So that is, I mean, that to some extent is a unique evil. Like during COVID, you know, I wanted to protect seniors, but I remember thinking the hysteria would be justified if this was a plague that killed newborn babies. Like when we're talking about people that are 95, we're most at risk. Well, obviously you protect your grandmother, but if you're 95, you understand the great black wings are coming for you at some point soon. With Kirk, we don't know as much as we might have about his legacy because somebody with a rifle kind of took a huge chunk of it away. You can't run for president until you're 35. He was 4 or 5 years away from even having that potential to go for the higher offices. So yeah, an unfortunate thing, and that carries stuff with it. Like he had little kids, and the kids were at the event.
Yeah, that's just shocking. I mentioned earlier that I wanted to get to the reaction in the media, but I kind of want to tie that into the topic because we decided to do this actually the day before Charlie was killed. And so it was because of all these other, as Brooks so eloquently put it, the bots were debating and fighting over all these other crimes, right? So the Ukrainian immigrant refugee who was killed in Charlotte and others, I sent you the couple in New York. And so because that ties to how the media reacts to that. But also, Will was talking about crime, like how we handle crime. We've had this ebb and flow of doing a good job, doing a bad job. It's not rocket science, right? You don't lock people up or you arrest them and then you don't, keep them in jail and then things happen. And in all the cases, there's always somebody who is has a long record, probably shouldn't have been on the street, open warrants and things of that nature. So Will said overall crime is down, and he's right, and we talk about that a lot. But where we have these issues, I want to talk about some of these other somewhat lesser but still high profile crimes and why we think that these things are happening the way they are, especially when it's just random people still in New York here where I am pushing people on the subway and things of that nature. And then after talking about those things, we can talk about how the media is covering all of them because they had some problems with Charlie Kirk covering that, but they had some problems with these other ones as well. And I want to go to you, Christy, because you had the great idea to do this, but I want to make sure people, because everyone knows the woman in Charlotte, but the couple in New York was weird. It was because it's later too. Like that story was been out there for a while, but I think it happened August 22nd. The couple was killed about 4 days ago. And it was here in New York, in Queens, and there was a guy who had this ruse. He was basically looking for a mark. He was going door to door, and I finally heard the news of what they said he was saying. I heard he was trying to say, make an excuse that he need help. So what he said was he needed to use a phone, and his battery was dead on his phone. So could he use their phone or charge his phone? And this video of him going down the street and going to other houses, and finally he gets to the corner house, elderly couple in their late 70s. I believe they let him in. And so he committed this heinous crime. No one knows about it. What happened was the son is a firefighter and he had an alert because the house was on fire. So they go there because it's a fire and they find the bodies, but they find the father tied up to the post and stabbed. And apparently when he got in, I mean, the 70s, even if he was going to rob him, he could have robbed him and left. But he's in there for 5 hours. He was in the house, beat them, stabbed them, killed them, and then burned the house down. Tried to burn the house down. They have him on video coming out the house after 5 hours, on video trying to pawn the stuff. He had been in jail for 16 years, just got out, but he still had 2 charges pending since he got out. And, like I said, just what are you thinking about these kind of random crimes, the heinous nature? Why are they seemingly increasing? And then we can talk about the terrible way the government's handling them and follow that up with the media. But Christy, what you got? All
That's
that.
a lot in there. So, I
Yep.
mean, first of all, when I hear about any of these cases, the first thing I say is, Lord, don't let the guy be black. That's the first thing I say.
Oh, we still do it. I remember we used to do that. I didn't know we
No,
still do that.
seriously, that's the same thing. And was this
Oh,
guy
the guy
black?
was black. Let me see. Jamel McGruff. I think he was your cousin. Your cousin did it.
So I don't buy into. I know there's a bunch of,
You don't buy that Jamel McGruff was black?
no, there's a bunch of right
Rough.
wing.
Come
There's
on,
a bunch
man.
of right-wing conservatives that were doing this whole thing like, we're fatigued too. We have black fatigue too. I don't do that online. I don't even fall into that category online. I'm not going there with y'all. But Chris Rock said it a long time ago. I mean, he said it in the 90s, right?
What did he
We
say, Christy?
He said there are black people and there are the N-words, right? And it's a clear distinction. And for those of us, first of all, it's a clear distinction. I don't live in urban America. I've never lived in urban America in my life. I knock on wood, I'll never have to. I'm not doing it, right? I hope my kids don't do it. I'm not living around a bunch of black people. I'm just not in the hood. I'm not.
That's okay.
Um,
Sorry.
that being
I
said,
mean, can you
I
put a disclaimer at the bottom? Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead. Don't mind me.
that being said, I don't feel the need to, we know there's problems. We know there's problems in the inner city. We know there's problems with this subset of Black culture. But
Right.
Will can come with the facts. It's not the majority of us. It's not all of us. And I detest Black conservatives that buy into the need to chime in and say, oh, we have Black fatigue too. Are you kidding me? We've known it's been a problem, but what are we doing about it? What are
They're
we
also
doing?
not doing it because they're black. Isn't that? I mean, because that implies that there's something which gets to the stuff you see on social media. I just ignore it, but that there's something inherent in blacks that make them just go around and stab people on the train. They're not doing it because they're black.
They're doing it because they're
Will had a
poor.
post recently that was actually pretty illuminating on this, and it's like everybody that's doing the murders are typically young, poor males, many without fathers,
Mhm.
and like that goes across racial lines.
Yep.
So
Yeah, you throw in some drugs, you throw in a couple other factors, you throw in the fact that nobody locked them up when they knew they were bad. It's not the black thing is not the lead, but that's
Well,
what people
if
want
I
to do.
can jump in there, I mean, it's so there
You
are two
can.
things. Like one, I'll lead with because like I am on the right, and I mean, we're all kind of no nonsense people with like military or business backgrounds. I mean, first of all, I think we could resolve the crime problem by killing 1% of the population of the country. I mean, that's
Okay.
basically what Nayib Bukele did. Like, you're not supposed to say that or whatever, but like he
I'm
literally
down.
just yeah, I mean, I'm down to everyone is at some level. Like he literally just first he sent the army out and then rounded up the survivors and put them in that castle prison, and now they don't have any crime. Because crime is committed by a very small subset of male criminals, and we'll get into black versus white and so on. Most people, like, excuse the language, fighting and fucking and sometimes using drugs, but that's not crime in the sense that anyone means. Like the chance of me, for all my sardonism, walking around with a hammer and hitting a grandmother over the head is zero. Like there almost no one that any of us know, black or white, would do that. There's a small group of people, throwbacks to the cavemen that will do that kind of stuff. They're actually not very tough compared to adult male fighters from other groups, but there are a lot of them usually if you have to fight them, and we can just take them all and put them somewhere. That's the nicest way to do it. And then the crime problem would stop. But in terms of the details of the crime problem, the thing Brooks is referencing, and he had a good comment there as I recall, but it's like people keep saying shit like 3% of the population commits 48 last year percent of the murders, and that 3% is young black men. The one time I looked at that, it was like 7.2% of the population commits the other 53% of the murders because those are young Hispanic and poor white men. So it's
Right.
kind of idiotic to take the group black people, which is 14% of the country or whatever, and break it down so you get into men with no dads making below X amount of money, and then say, well,
Hmm.
look at what they do. It would be just as easy to compare. Like I probably could break down the trailer park crime rate in Kentucky by looking at different counties and then compare the trailer park rate to the black rate. Or Christy might put it the N-word rate because like her community doesn't have any crime.
She's a
So like
racist, clearly. Yeah. Yeah.
you'd probably find that there'd be like 90% of communities that have no crime really whatsoever, domestic violence between husbands and wives after a date night or something. Then there's 5% kind of trailer parks, whites are up here, murder rate of 17 per 100,000 or whatever. And then you find another 5% black and Hispanic, murder rate of 40 per 100,000. And all the crime would be in that 10% block. Like I genuinely believe this. I don't think anyone disagrees with it. So I guess last thing on this, I actually pulled up the crime numbers while we were talking on my device. And I mean, last year, 55% of criminals were white. This is what's called index crime. It's serious violent crime, ag assault on up. 25 were black, so we're definitely overrepresented. We need to work on that in the community. And 20% were Spanish, like just acclimating to the country, fitting in right between the white and the black rate, just getting used to being Americans. But I mean, so it was 55, 25, 20. And that's what you see in like a county jail. Like the most integrated place you'll ever be is a tough ex-urban jail, unless you're talking about a barracks. So that's it. I mean, like we could take the worst 10% of those criminals, the 55, the 25, 20, send them to a labor camp, crime is over.
Brooks, I have to come to you after that. My libertarian, because he's like, we should just off 1%. And that leads me to on the backdrop of all these crimes,
I got to say,
these
then everyone else could be a bleeping libertarian. Sorry to interrupt you, gentlemen, but like that's the thing with libertarians. Libertarianism doesn't work with bums. So, like, if you drive in Kentucky, there are all these beautiful. Brooks and I sometimes go
killing
work
my
out.
thunder.
No, but like Brooks and I like go work out 2 days a week. Well, allegedly, I've been ruining this for like a week, 2 weeks running. But like, my buddy and I shoot at a gun range out in Shelbyville, his city. If you drive between the two nice mid-sized cities, both very diverse, well, like Kentucky terms, you see farmers of multiple races, by the way, that leave like crops out by the road, like take some, leave money. You can contribute your food, books, and so on in exchange for a bag of apples or whatever. And I'll always take something, fresh corn, and I'll leave $10, which is a little more than it's worth. That kind of libertarian market exchange doesn't work if someone's going to take 80 shucks of corn, throw them in the back of their truck, and drive back to Detroit. So you can only have that lack of borders. Everyone's got 10 guns, all that stuff. If everyone is an adult taxpayer, that's it. That's my point.
Before I finish my question, Brooks, I have to say Will is on a roll today. He is cracking me up.
Yes.
But anyway, because what I was going to say on the backdrop of that stuff is Trump in DC and threatening to go to other cities. Because maybe think of that because he talked about just kill the 1%, which I'm not kidding when I say I'm in favor of.
I'm not in
But
favor of that, for the
uh,
record.
I am.
People just don't
One
have
and
the
a half.
strength. That's what I'm saying. Just
I'll go up to
all you
one and a
need.
half. We can negotiate on the percentage. But anyway, uh, what are your, I know the thoughts, but how does that kind of tie into Trump's desire, which I agree with, of trying to curb crime and belief that many of these governors and mayors are over their head or don't want to solve crime, also agree with unconstitutionally trying to go into cities and solve their crime problem.
Yeah, I'm all for DC. Like he's got perfect authority to do that. I think
Not
it's a really,
Chicago, you don't want to be Chi-Town, bada bing.
um, I I'm hopeful that the pressure will. So I tend to be somewhat cynical with regard to the motivations behind these. Like these judges and mayors and police chiefs could turn this around fairly quickly.
In
And
what way?
well, I mean, do essentially doing what Will prescribed. Maybe something less than that, but any of those people have the authority to clamp down on violent crime, and so the fact that it's not
Brandon
being
Johnson, you
done.
think Brandon Johnson can do that?
What do you mean?
Climb down
The
on
Chicago
crime?
mayor has almost dictatorial powers. He can pick the board of aldermen. Brandon Johnson's just not doing that. That's
Right.
the issue.
Because
Yeah,
he would
so
never even consider it.
think
Oh, you
you're
just mean he can do it. Oh, yeah, he can. You're right. Oh, well, he would never do it.
right.
What is Brandon Johnson's answer to every question he's asked? What do you think about the budget, sir? What do you think about the schools? Man, I'm raising black kids. That's his
Brandon
answer to the
Johnson.
budget.
So
I'm not making it up.
we're all a bit reluctant to everyone's a bit reluctant to criticize their ethnic group. And for that matter, I mean, like Brooks and I are also from Kentucky near that Appalachian region, so the South gets mocked a lot too. No one's gonna be like, yeah, there are a lot of idiots, where I'm from. But like Brandon Johnson is kind of the stereotypical like angry black dude who went to a mid-level college. Like I've seen him take questions like, how do you feel about the new computers that are in the Chicago Police Guard? Well, as a black man, and it's just like, brother, what are you talking about? But I mean, it was like his idea was like one of his things, and last line from me before I shut up for a bit, but one of his things was that like accurately recording crime is racist because even in Chicago, with its Mexican and Italian and so on communities, the black crime rate is 2.3 or whatever times the overall crime rate. So he took down Shot Spotter, and he wants to take some of the computers out of cop cars, if I recall correctly, because shot spotting identifies that there are a lot of black shooters. Now, the other alternative, of course, would be catching the black shooters and locking them up before they beat their black girlfriends to death
Or
or shoot a
getting
black
someone to
kid.
the hospital before they die because the spotter hears the sound of the
Yeah,
bullet and immediately tells the police where the shooting is.
yeah, good point.
Who would stop that? That's insanity. But, oh, I'm sorry, I'll let you finish your thought.
No, I mean, like I've been probably interrupting other people more, but it's just the thing is, it's just class. It's like anti-Thomas Sowell, right? Like if racism is any system that produces disparities. So if the gunfire recording system identifies 90% of the crime on the South Side, which is black, Italian, Irish, Mexican, as you guys know, and like half of that just among blacks, then the shot spotter system must be classist and racist. It doesn't mean gangsters and mobsters shoot at each other more than dentists do. It can't mean that. This is religious. Like if I were to explain the problem of theodicy, like why does God allow evil by saying, well, what if God's evil? Probably all of you guys would be like, shut up. I mean, it would just be, it's not allowed within the framework of the religion. And liberalism has become pretty close to a religion.
Right. Okay, yes, Christy. I still want to
Okay,
hear, but go ahead.
I have a quick question.
Oh,
I'm
questions.
I'm the regular person on the panel.
Yeah, what the
And
hell am I?
Will
They're
lost
professors.
me.
What am I?
Will
No, go ahead.
lost me. Explain it to me, one of y'all. Like I'm in fifth grade. Why it's not true that we're 14%, Black people are 14% of the population,
Right.
but the stats they throw out that we commit half the crimes is not true.
Well, Will always do
Explain
it.
it
So
to
may
us.
I? May
Yes,
I?
because Will lost me.
Yeah. So she wants me to say this is regular to regular. You intellectuals go say something because you're using a percentage of they're trying to combine a percentage of an overall demographic at one point and then also mix it with the numbers, just the overall number. So yes, you could say that the percentage of the people who commit murders, you take all the murders and what percentage of them are black and you get a percentage. Then they're saying, and based on that, the black population is this number. So therefore, straight math would say that number divided by this number would give you this percentage. But what they're not accounting for is if there's 40%, if there's 40 million blacks and X number of them committed crime, doesn't that mean that all of the crimes that these evil blacks are committing, yes, they are disproportionate in the number, the 2, 3, 4 times whatever the number is, but of all the 40 million black people, it's still 1,000 shooters. So it's still a very small percentage of blacks that are committing murder. It's just a smaller percentage of others. So in my book, I wrote about that and I said it this way. I said, they'll say something, at the time it's changed, but at the time it was, they'll say blacks commit 6 times the murders as whites. And I'll say, well, technically they are true. But what they're not, they never tell you what the percentage of whites murders are. They never tell you that of the overall population of whites, the percentage of whites that commit murder is like 0.03 or something, right? So if you multiply that by 6, that is the percentage of blacks that are committing murder. It's small for every group is the point that we're trying to make.
If I could make one other quick point there, like alt-right types are also almost woke when it comes to playing bullshit word games. So like that 1450 figure that you just quoted, that's not a figure for crime. That's a figure for murder in 1 year after George Floyd died. So like whenever I debate kind of on Charles's point, is totally correct too. It's actually a better point. But like whenever I debate alt-righters, I'm like, what do you think is the worst crime? Like 2 fighting men shooting each other or child rape? And they'll always say child rape, and then I can just pull up the stats. Like, I'm sorry?
I said, that's the white guy.
Yeah, it's a crime that's 88% white. And I mean, I don't think, and the country's only 60% white right now. I don't think that means most white people are pedophiles. I mean, I actually would say that there's probably a very mild, somewhat genetic tendency toward depression and weirdness in Northern Europe. You know, are there a lot of big warriors from Africa and Samoa? Like maybe there's probably some effect there. I think it's mostly cultural in the black case. But I mean, like, I wouldn't want to fight the average Samoan. Anyway, though, leaving that behind, the point, though, is it's still just, the claim is bullshit. It's 1452 is murder in the worst year for murder. Like, for crime, it's like 20%.
And the last thing, Christy, you also can't, if you want to really draw out the numbers and get as accurate, because it's all garbage in and garbage out. You have to look at every number. So if you want it to be accurate, you'd have to say how many blacks committed the murder. Let's say we knew there were no unknowns. We knew a solid number. But are we going to assume with our common sense in doing the study that if there were 1,000 murders committed by blacks, that meant there were 1,000 murderers? How many of show of hands? How many of you believe that there were 1,000 murderers? If there were 1,000 murders committed by blacks, that there were 1,000 murderers? No sane person would think that, right? Because in Chicago, some places are better. The police have a 20% close rate on murders, so that means the shooters are still free. And once you kill one person, it's easy to kill another. You don't think some people brag about having multiple bodies? There's a thing called a serial killer. So that skews the number in itself. So it's just all BS. All the groups murder at a very small rate. Blacks just happen to murder at a small rate. That's 3 to 4 or whatever the current number is. I haven't checked it in a while.
Yeah, we should,
thank you.
We should work on that 3 to 4x. One thing, Charles though keeps saying things that are actually very important there. So like one of the things that you'll hear online is like 2 to 5% of black people will be murderers. First of all, that's the figure for men. Second, that's based on the number of people that get murdered, not the number of murderers, which no one fucking knows, because like you only close 20 to 50% of the cases. But also like, as Charles just said, like murderers don't just kill one person. Like if you've ever known anyone in the gang scene, shooter is a title. So, I mean, like King Von, the hip hop MC in Chicago, has a song called Let's Talk Bodies, where he's like, I killed 7 people, no one cares. And that says a lot about Chicago, but it's also, that's a common reality. It's probably about average for a GD or BD shooter, much less a mobster white guy. So you have the white total, you have the black total, but that doesn't mean that like everyone is one individual guy that shoots a one-shot infield rifle once.
And last thing I want to say, but I hate to go down this rabbit hole, Brooks, but these numbers that people put out annoy me so often. I try to avoid them, but when it comes up, here's another thing. Let's take murders off the table, Christy. There's another stat. Maybe Will can correct me. I don't forget. It was something they used to say on the left. The black, social activists used to say, a black man, 1 in 2 black men will be murdered at some point in their lifetime. It's like really, so half the blacks will be murdered. Yet in reality, half the blacks aren't being murdered. I mean, you can see that. right? But they actually believe that, like, or they'll say X percentage, some high percentage will be in the criminal justice system at some point in their life. But everybody I know they know some people in the criminal justice system, but it's a small number. It's not like every friend of theirs has been in prison. But the argument is that all the black men will end up in prison at some point in their life. That's also ludicrous. Not the rapper.
Yeah, I've said enough. So I mean, I want to hear what Christy and Brooks say about this. But yes, just for the record, that's bullshit. The actual way to track this is to look at causes of death like each year and just multiply over 100. So for black men, like 3% of black men each year die from homicide, which is crazy. Okay. But I actually decided to check that against Appalachian totals once for whites, and like 3% of Appalachian white men die each year from overdoses, 3% from suicides, and 1% from murders. So like young men tend, again, it's Brooks's point. Not much
Right.
kills young men. Like, what's going to kill a young fighting man? It's not going to be cancer. It's going to be another young man or a large
Another
animal.
young man. Brooks, as we're talking crime, though, I want to know your thoughts on we started talking about the National Guard thing, but then also the weird backdrop that followed that of Trump. I said this a while back. I said Trump annoys me sometimes, but I got to give him credit. One thing I think that I find interesting about Trump is his ability to get the left to fight strongly for stupid crap, right? And
Yeah.
so when he said, "I'm going to send the National Guard," and I roll my eyes, that's stupid. You can't do that. It's unconstitutional. I did love watching them say crime is not bad. I mean, literally at the time that weekend, 50, 60 people got shot. Say, we got everything under control. He got them to openly say that, which is insane. So what are your thoughts on that? Let's go media. What are your thoughts on how the media talks about it?
He muses so stream of consciousness about things that he knows he'll never do.
Right.
Where I'm thinking about revoking Rosie O'Donnell's citizenship, and he has no intention on following through. And if he did, I would be. The thing about Trump is I'm not as concerned about him because I know that if he went off the rails, like I'd be against him. And that means that most of the country would, and
Many people
therefore,
in the party. That's the difference too with the left, is that they seem to boil like I'm in New York. Quickly, I don't want to cut you off, but people are talking about comparing Brandon Johnson to Mondani. They're like, oh, they're so afraid of Mondani. I said the difference is, even though New York is very liberal, New York is not Chicago. Chicago, Brandon Johnson has a rubber stamp. No one's going to say no. They're not even a Democrat. I don't think that would be the case in New York. I might be wrong, but I think that there are enough Democrats freaking out about him, which is why leadership hasn't endorsed him yet, that he will get pushback. Brandon gets none, right? So, but either way, whatever level each of them gets, we know it's going to be a lot less than Trump would get on the right, right? Trump got put. Remember we talked about maybe we should have the what do they call them? The red. What's the laws with the
red
guns?
flag laws.
Red flag
Yeah.
laws, and
Oh,
everybody.
yeah.
Oh, what are they? Right.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
So he gets pushback from the right often. He and Thomas Massey are in it right now. So he gets pushback. They don't get pushback on that side. So I'm less concerned about that too. But the media and the Democrats were like, there's not a crime problem. The right are using it. They do the same thing with Charlie Kirk. Oh, great. I mean, I guess it's bad. He's dead, but it's really bad because the right's got an excuse. The woman got stabbed. Not we feel sorry for it. Yeah, it's bad, but now the right's going to say this crime. Why is that the first thing they go to?
Republicans pounce.
Yeah, exactly. Republicans pounce. I think it's because
it's bad though.
They react to him. Like I really do believe that TDS is a thing. And I think a lot of people are infected with it. It's like immediately whatever he's for, they're against. And I think he's used that in a fairly clever way multiple times to demonstrate the phenomenon.
Can I add I mean, I know we're running late. I don't want to keep everybody up. And today is the anniversary of 9/11. They said they had I don't know. I was busy and didn't get to watch much news, but they did say there was like a credible threat here in New York. The Charlie Kirk assassination kind of made them even more vigilant, but they're everywhere that day anyway. But the thing I thought about, because in the news, we talk about the media and how they cover things. And, recently, on Monday, was it Monday when Israel bombed the 5 Hamas terrorists, but in Qatar? And
Yeah.
they were upset. And even Trump said, no, you should have done it, this kind of thing. And as we reflect on 9/11 and the somber moment and what happened, but then our reaction afterwards, which, many people in hindsight don't agree with how it was done. But one of the tenets of that, in addition to creating way too many additional branches of government, but we were like, we're going to go after them and we're going to find them. And it was Al Qaeda. They weren't a country, right? They didn't have many borders. So we were going everywhere. We were going to Iraq, we were going to Afghanistan, we went to Pakistan, whatever. So I obviously just got back from Israel and I see that October 7th is their 9/11. Their country's different now, right? And so that's why, even when Trump came out and said he was against it, Netanyahu was like, we did this on our own. We didn't tell anybody. It was us. It's not you. That's fine. You can step aside. But wherever we find them, we're going to do them. So doesn't mean it's right. But do you all see that, especially you, Brooks, as a military guy, as them acting and responding in the way we did to 9/11?
Oh, sure. Yeah. And I'm fairly critical in hindsight. Like I spent, 10 years
Right.
over there, and the blood, particularly the blood, but also the treasure that was wasted when, I heard a story. There's a guy, a Delta guy, known as the Sheriff of Baghdad, great guy. Like he's a really, really cool jujitsu guy now, has a big social media following, but he said what he was told when they were like he was one of the first people in Afghanistan. He was a guy that did solo operations like in Iraq, like unheard of, types of stuff. And Delta, if anybody's going to be doing that, it's Delta. And he said that the skinny was that Bush gave Mullah Omar 48 hours to give up bin Laden and attacked at hour 44. And when they were interrogating, like they were getting that I was going to give him up. And so like the thought that could have been it, potentially, or at least some much less protracted engagement,
Right.
all of the blood and treasure and lives, internationally that could have been otherwise. Because like in Afghanistan, and it became painfully obvious that we were playing whack-a-mole, where we were going to kill somebody and then their brother was going to join the fight. And that's you don't win that. That's not how you engage. So yeah, the protracted war, again, I support Israel's right to fight this war, particularly in Gaza with Hamas, but I also reserve the right to criticize them. And I would say that hitting Qatar that way is, after the Abraham Accords, things were looking very up. And I think part of Hamas's strategy is, hey, let's tear down some of the stuff some of the gains that had been made, and that's a strategic objective. And so if you start getting safe harbor in some of those countries, you're gonna inflame the entire Middle East, and that is advantageous to Hamas. And Dave Smith's a guy that I'd love to have on here and go on about Israel.
We should. We had him on. We should have him on again with you.
Because like I agree with plenty of what he says. I just think that the truth that he's telling is subordinate to the biggest truth, which is you can't allow Hamas's strategy to be the strategy that wins, because it will be used everywhere. And I think it'll be used by the American left at some point, like that level of ubiquity. And
I agree. And I also think your whack-a-mole point is on par with what Israel is facing too, because they are fighting a huge fight, right? There's an ideological thing. Unless you change the generation, the culture, none of it is going to change, right? You kill somebody, their family still believes this, their kid is going to believe it. Not to mention they're not a country, they're hard to find. They got 300 miles of tunnel and you only found 10% of it.
Right.
And that's a problem. But at the same time, they're also losing a war in the media because everybody's painting them as just, like their intent is to kill people, indiscriminately.
And those people are chess pieces that Hamas is using. Dave Smith is a chess piece for Hamas.
Wow.
Wow.
Now he's not coming. Thanks a lot, Brooks. No,
I bet he
He
does.
can definitely come on and debate with me, you.
I know he
and
would.
Christy. But I mean, like the one thing that I would say, like the Dave Smith kind of take also, like Dave is an adult man. I mean, I think there has to be an element of disingenuousness to this, right? Like most people know what war is like, at least at the level of consuming modern media graphic. 10 people like Brooks have actually been over there. I don't think anyone can seriously believe that Israel's goal is killing kids or something. I mean, that's the fifth
Is that what you
largest war.
said? See, I haven't followed him. When he was on here, we debated, the general libertarian tenets, the non-aggression principles, and things of that nature. And he was able to say, yeah, at some point you have to draw a line. So I guess he's gone out,
And
a
I
much
mean,
further
I
time.
agree
like
with
every
Dave on,
post
I agree with Dave on Ukraine. Like, I think Dave is absolutely right about the encroachment that led to the red line and Ukraine.
Well,
And the neocon policies so like I agree with him on that. I disagree with him on Israel just from a policy standpoint
these
because
are all
of the
these
incentives.
complex mutual fault situations, though. I mean, if you were just to say, well, the Jews and the Arabs have been fighting for 2,000 years, I mean, it's like whoever attacks last is at fault if there's a ceasefire. That's actually the rule. I mean, like by the standard that if you kill X number of children, I think it's more than 5,000 you hear online, like there's a genocide going on. Obviously, we mourn for those kids, but like the Russia-Ukraine war would be a genocide. Like they'd all be genocide. Sudan,
Oh my
South Sudan
God.
would be.
Do you
I mean,
think,
like,
I'm sorry, but I'm glad you mentioned that because I don't think people, how many of you think, Christy, what are the number of people that have died in the Russia-Ukraine war?
I
What would
have
be
no
your guess?
idea.
What would be your guess? Throw a number out there. Don't feel bad if you're way off because I don't think anybody knows. Everybody, every time I tell people, they're like blown away by it.
Maybe 15,000,
It's
10,000.
many multiples of Israel, of Gaza and Israel. Many, it's probably just short of, well, somewhere between 400 and 600. They haven't figured out the number. It depends on who you ask. 1,000. It's
could be
closing
up
in
to
on
a
a
million because the Russians and
It's closing in
Ukrainians are
on a
both
million.
probably burning bodies and all that. Yeah,
Yeah.
like
Wait, it's
Right.
how many? How many?
It's
You're talking
closing in
about
on a
you're
million.
talking
I
about a
meant
million.
100,000 when I said 400. I meant 1,000.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, it's
Yes.
Charles is exactly right. It's 10
Don't
times
make
the
me care
scale.
about this issue. See, I've gone this long without making it an issue.
And
don't
Russia
have-
You're
just
gonna
went into Poland's
radicalize me now.
and
You
Russia
don't have
just
to
went
care
into
about foreign
Poland's
soldiers
airspace
dying, Christy.
yesterday.
That's the thing. Take the dark pill. Like nobody. One of my sincere feelings is that nobody actually cares about this. Like if you showed me an injured Russian kid, I would mourn. I'd probably give maybe 1,000 to his family. I'd care because I'm seeing a human that I can feel allied to. But in general, like there's that famous heat map that goes up online where like liberals, the thing they love most is like Mother Earth. Like it's this obscure entity that includes plankton. If you read the questions, conservatives, what they love more is their mother. Like it's very much it's centered around here. Like people are willing to give the 1,000 I mentioned to people in their own town. They're willing to risk death for their families, especially their wives. When you get out there for the country, maybe you'll fight in a war, preferably in a non-combat role. Beyond the country, people don't give a shit. I think that the conservative take is just natural reality. Like
Right.
I don't know whether or not I'd kill for money at this point in my life, but if you said my life would become 50% worse to save random Somali fighting age men from climate change, I would just say no, because I don't care. And that's perfectly healthy. They don't care about me. We haven't given sworn oaths to each other. They're just random ass people. And there are a lot of people. I think that's a perfectly normal attitude to hold, actually.
I think
The America first way.
I'm sorry.
America first.
Yeah, I also, but beyond that,
Only
Christy,
close
I
the
think
border.
I think conservatives also understand human nature, right? So they have a different level of expectation of how the human psyche is and how people will act. So that they mourn, they're shocked. 31-year-old man who's not a criminal and not doing anything, get shot. You're shocked, right? You mourn it. But you don't understand. You're not shocked that people will do crazy things, that they're evil, that they're terrorists or whatever. I think many of the Mother Earth types that Will was talking about have a very skewed reality on human nature. So that's the difference. But then also, I think he's right. They don't care. You're closer to your own circle, and no one pays attention to anything. They think they do. They pay attention to bots and clicks, but they like I just like the numbers I told you in Russia. People will be blown away about that. That you see so many people talking about it's a genocide. And on the same day, they're complaining about what happened in Hamas. Now, I'm with Brooks, even Trump. A lot of people think that attack was wrong, but they don't know that there was a terrorist attack in Jerusalem that day. That 2 Palestinians drove past a bus stop and just shot like 6 people and killed 2 of them on Monday. Have you heard that in the news at all, Chrissy? It has not. I found out about it from someone in Israel. And I'm like, I don't just believe what I say. So I looked it up. Sure enough, it happened Monday. Nobody's talking about it, right? So, you got the influencer, you got the media, you got the fact that generally we don't care because it's not close to us. We don't see it. I try to make it a point, like once or so a month, to just spend a day just Googling news stories across the country, just like what's going on in Angola across the world, what's going on in Mexico. It will shock you, the things you see, and it will be like today's news, and it will blow your mind. You're like, oh my God, we're so small. And like Will say, that's good. I mean, I think that, that's one of the things we're wired for. If not, we wouldn't be able to get out of bed if we were
Well, yeah.
overly
So this is
empathetic
Dunbar's number,
to
right?
anything.
150 people is about the manageable network.
Mhm.
And, a lot of the malaise and panic over bad things is largely the fact that you used to hear about it once or twice a week on the 11 o'clock news locally, and now you hear every 11 o'clock news's purview in a national 24/7 news cycle. So
Right.
you're exposed to all of it. And I think that even nationally that's a bad thing on the psyche.
I think that's a good segue. I want to end on the media, and I know you are going to tell me all the terrible things you saw and you heard. So I do want to end on us. I mean, my statement on the media is going to be at least being surprised, modestly surprised, moderately surprised that I saw some good things. So when Charlie Kirk was killed, I'm watching the news, and every once in a while, big story like that. Let's see what the MSNBCs of the world are doing. And shockingly, Jen Psaki was on. And she did a decent job. She looked physically, she's a great actor, or she looked like shocked by it. Like she looked like like it bothered her. And she said, I disagree with him on just about anything. But the fact that he was going to talk to people who disagree with him, like, so her coverage was good. Also, I'm in New York. The local news came on and they called it an assassination, which kind of shocked me. And you saw what the Yankees did. I don't know. I meant to send you all a post. I sent it to my friend, and I was going to send it to you, and then they took it down. But I can look at it to see who it was. And then I saw with the Black Channel or something posted, and so when I saw the Yankees putting up, I'm sure you saw that the Yankees put up a picture of Charlie Kirk and I was like, that's pretty cool. And I showed my wife, and I was like, kudos to them for doing the right thing, but that's a bold move. She's like, why? It's a good thing that I say they're gonna get excoriated for it. No, just for putting up his picture. Sure enough, they're like, how dare you put up the picture of the man who wanted to kill all the blacks and some craziness. So there were some spots of people doing good, but tell me what you all saw in the media, because I'm sure most of it wasn't good.
I saw a lot of people that have been calling Charlie Kirk and Donald Trump Hitler for the last 5 years, saying that we need to tone the temperature down.
Right.
And I'm uninterested in their argument. I mean, I
Love the honesty.
I think the temperature being down would be a good thing, but like not on your terms. Like
You're like you first.
right?
You
Yeah,
first.
precisely.
Christy?
Yeah. So
Oh,
there
well, go ahead,
Okay,
Will.
Will.
It looked like she was Go ahead, Will.
All right. So there are two things that I saw in the media. I mean, so first of all, what Brooks is saying is obviously true. I don't buy it either. I'm probably going to keep talking in the same, like, not brutal but aggressive way until I see that change on the other side. We've heard a lot about like stochastic terrorism and so on. The last
Speech
five
is
major
violence.
shooters. I'm sorry.
Speech is violence.
Right,
Oh yeah,
right.
the last five major shooters have been trans or have been Antifa types. I mean, literally, this goes back to the non-binary shooter a year ago. A couple of them are questionable, like the one or two that weren't. One of them was a cross-dressing Philadelphia black guy. But anyway, we don't need to get into all that. Like, I think if you're going to talk about stochastic terrorism, there's far more of it on the left than there is on the right. The right, actually, at the margins, like blacks taking L's on Twitter and so on, is crazier. But there's a lot. The left-wing stuff is almost as bad in mainstream. So people like Professor Crump, which are the exact equivalent internet trolls on the left, they'll be on like CNN. So yeah, I saw a lot of that. The final sentence, as we get ready to wrap up, but like there are two things I saw in coverage. One is that most normal, respectable Democrats, actually, like Hillary Clinton, whatever you might think about these people, really did say, like, look, we all give speeches. This is totally unacceptable. RIP, support the kids here kind of stuff. Even Barack Obama weighed in. That actually was, I don't know what else they could say if they're congressmen, but that actually was pretty respectable. The flip side, though, was that there were all these very large internet accounts who were saying the exact opposite. Like, people are selling shirts showing Charlie Kirk getting his head almost shot off that say, like, debate this or last argument of kings, this kind of stuff. And there are hundreds of thousands of likes, probably including some of those same politicians on every one of those posts. So that's the dichotomy. And that's what you see a lot of on the left, by the way. Like they send the little soldiers out in the street to fight with the Proud Boys. And then someone comes forward on captured regime TV and says, like, we deplore violence in the streets unless we need to pass the gun confiscation bill. And I think you're seeing the same kind of technique now.
So I know on MSNBC, I didn't see it, but it said analyst Matthew Dowd, whatever
Oh
he
yeah.
said, Charlie Cook pushed hate speech, he got fired. But Katie Tur, when I was watching
Oh, he
it,
did get fired. I saw people
yeah,
calling for him
Yeah,
to be
no,
yeah,
fired.
he
he
got
did.
fired. But to me, Katie Tur also, because even in her announcing, that
Mhm.
Charlie Kirk was dead, then she was like, he was blah, 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 whatever she said. I
Right.
thought that they kind of spared her because I thought that her comments were appalling, especially right in the moment of it happening. Um, there was a local journalist. He was actually like a sports journalist. I don't even know why he was commenting on it, but he got fired here locally for something he said, which also kind of leads me into talking about people saying stuff really quickly. There's been a ton of people getting fired, mostly teachers or medical professionals. I mean, it's all out cancel culture. We are caring to the utmost on people right now because they're just posting horrible things and they're educators. So there's a bunch of people getting fired right now that are teachers.
Now,
And
I'm
there's
not for canceling people's speech, but I do also think you're stupid if you're posting nonsense, in your uniform from the
If you
classroom. That's
if
stupid.
if you're a teacher, I'm less about medical professionals, but if you're a educator or there's a local librarian and you're posting, yeah, he should have died, you don't deserve to be around kids
So
because
wait, let's talk about the healthcare thing because, like, in your end of care life in the hospice as a Black moderately conservative woman, are you worried about a health? You know what I'm saying? Like, there are implications there with
Yeah,
no,
regard
there's
to
because
big
if
things
I
there
come
too.
in on a stretcher, they're not going to be like, oh, she's a conservative.
If
You
they
know what I
know
mean?
you,
Oh,
if they,
Yeah.
by then you'll be a household name, Christy.
yeah, yeah. So, in the vein of Wilfred Riley, how long is the last? 30 seconds? What is our last? How
The
much time
last
do we
word
get?
of wisdom.
Yes. How much time do
Yeah,
we get?
usually like 20, 30 seconds.
All right. I want to start with Brooks. What do you got?
Charlie Kirk, gut punch. Um, just it's been a rough couple of days. Seeing I viewed him as such potential and a real light in the world. I didn't agree with all of his takes. That's one of the things that I really regret here is I would have loved to have had a conversation with him, and that I thought that would have been just an amazing thing because I thought that he was a good faith actor wanting to have conversations with people that he genuinely disagreed with because he wanted them to learn something, but he also thought that he might learn something. And you know, thinking about a guy 31 years old, Charlie Kirk made me feel like I wasn't doing enough, and
I can see that.
that's powerful. And so, hopefully, five people rise up in his place. I really do think we're going to see the power of dying for the truth in the near future.
Wilfred Reilly.
Yeah, I mean, I think that was a good summary for Kirk. I mean, I will say I was a little glib earlier when I said we could just kill or jail 1% of the population and fix all these problems. But there's also an element of hard truth to that. Like, I mean, I actually would probably support doing that after proper due process. And I think that all these crimes, the poor Ukrainian woman that was stabbed to death on the train, Charlie Kirk shot by a lunatic, the proper solution to this isn't race warring or anything like that. It's actually organizing as a country, continuing to defend things like freedom of speech, but also taking the people that are responsible for this stuff. I mean, one of them was an IQ 70 black dude who'd been arrested 14 times. One of them was some transgender lunatic from this college, and just removing them from society. It's not that difficult to do. There's nothing that would improve race relations, political relations, et cetera, more.
I'm gonna let you go last, Christy. I'll be quick. I just want to say that we all know that two things can be true at the same time. So everybody can be right and wrong. I think as we look at this stuff and we reel, and then you look at the comments on social media, like the world, Ukraine and Russia and everything, say the world is on fire. I say the world is on fire. But then I say the world has always been on fire, right? It's just what we pay attention to and, how we react to it. So I think that we need to be concerned, but, cautiously, and that I agree with the people both being right and wrong, that we should turn down the temperature. But I think the media should go first. Christy.
I wanted to say something real quick about the Ukrainian girl, because it seems like the right went really quick at, we don't care about Ukraine, don't send any aid to Ukraine, and also the fact of we don't want immigrants here, really quickly to this poor refugee Ukrainian girl who's super young. She's here alone, but her parents are there. But yes, very tragic. She was also very beautiful. So that is like the perfect storm. What we're not talking about, and I'm disappointed, is mental health. So when Will says we can throw them away, I don't want to kill people, but I do think we should bring back insane asylums. And after, a couple of times in
And
jail,
then kill them from the asylum.
just
So you
put
have
them in
them all
there,
confined in one place.
just swallow the key. I mean, we have to start
Oh,
talking
I thought it
about
was like a trick to get them in one place. And
we
I'm
have
sorry.
to start talking about mental health. And then when we're talking about turning point, it's definitely tragic. One thing I do want people to know, Charlie Kirk was actually the co-founder, so he does have a partner. His name's Tyler Boyer. So Turning Point is still going to thrive, and I am ready for whatever is next for Turning Point, because I do think that we're going to see them rise. I mean, when is a martyr ever killed? And Martin Luther King, that launched a huge movement. So that's what I'm looking for Turning Point.
Well, I appreciate you all in the conversation. I think it was great. I hope people enjoy our takes. And thank you all for watching and listening. And we will be back with our next awesome guest. Thank you. Good night.
I got a country to say. Patriot J, I'm saving the day. Patriot J, I'm saving the day from you commies who lame. No, you can't fuck with me. I got a country to say. God bless the US of A. Land of the free and the home of the brave. God get all of the praise. I got a country to say, cause I'm Patriot J and I'm saving the day.